Hello, everyone. I'm your digital host, Tatiana White, and welcome back to another episode of 48's newest digital show, This Month Matters, where each month we'll take a closer look at the causes, communities, and conversations being recognized and why they matter, how they impact our community, and how you can get involved. February celebrates and recognizes many things, including Black History Month, which is a time to honor the contributions, achievements, and central role of Black people in history, and also a time to honor the pioneers whose courage shaped our nation's civil rights movement. One of those pioneers was Claudette Colvin. At just 15 years old, she refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery 9 months before the more widely known arrest of Rosa Parks. Colvin later became a key plaintiff in the case that helped end bus segregation nationwide. And another interesting fact about Ms. Claudette Colvin is that she is the great aunt of 48's very own forecaster, Jada Russell. So, Ms. Colvin recently passed away in January at the age of 86, and today we're joined by her son, Dr. Randy Colvin, to reflect on her legacy, her life, and what it meant to grow up as the son of a history maker. How are you doing today, Randy?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited for you to join me today and just sharing a little bit more about Miss Claudette's story for Black History Month. And so when people hear the name Claudette Colvin, they think of a civil rights pioneer, but to you, she was your mom. So how would you describe growing up having this wonderful woman as your mom?
It was wonderful. It was a great experience. My mom is, as many people would know, she's a wonderful storyteller. And so from the beginning, I enjoyed wonderful opportunities to just to speak with her and have her share stories. And as I got older, then we would start applying different concepts and we just discuss a whole vast array of things and family. It's a lot of fun just talking with her, just sitting back and just listening. So it was just wonderful.
Yes, and I know it was probably amazing just to hear some of the stories that she had from her time and just growing up during segregation and everything. And so I'm sure you guys had a lot of great story times that you guys were able to share.
A lot of times it was just basically things currently going on at different phases. As our grandkids would say, different phases in your life. It will be whether when you're in high school or whether you're starting to drive, you start your new job, or you now I'm grandkids, been married. It was just the whole host of things she would be able to discuss and then tie them into guidance, but tie them into a story. And then again, we would go with application. How would you deal with different things given the different stages or life stages that you're in? And a lot of times it was just fun. We would be laugh and we would joke and again tell stories, and that was it. That's how I would explain it. Very lovely and very inspirational.
Yes, and I'm sure it probably impacts you still to this day, and you're probably able to share these same
Yes,
stories with, people in your life as well. And
yes.
at just 15 years old, your mom, she made that decision that would change history. And so, what did she tell you during those stories that I know she told you about that day that she refused to give up her seat on the bus? And how did she think that it made that impact in history?
Well, the one thing, again, when we were taught, a lot of our conversations will kind of get into foundational kind of things that were underneath that will be supporting whatever your actions are. So, for example, we talked a lot about uh, that we really felt like it was the influence of the Holy Spirit and God being involved because we were talking about all the things that had to come together in order for that situation on the bus to occur. All the things that happened at school, her friends, the decisions they made to stop and look at go to different stores on the way home, things that had to happen, and then uh, the month or the time that would happen in during the Black History Month period, where they were discussing a lot of issues in school. So things were very relevant and pressing on the mind. But then going back to application, my mom kept thinking about, she would tell me, we were going over all of these things in school. They actually studied and read the Constitution. And then the different stories about, as she would say, people other than George Washington, Carver, and so forth. Uh, and she would start talking about like Sojourner Truth and different things like that, and abolitionists. and then she would say, tie that into the adults in her present time, and she was saying, well, we are going to look at what our adults are doing now, and she somewhat felt that she was trying to connect the dots as to what was going to happen, what was going on, why that it seemed like it was a little bit of people hesitating a little bit, or a little bit of uncertainty. And so when an opportunity came together on the bus, again, that's why she said she felt that it was the influence of the Holy Spirit, where God was working behind this. God was working in that situation, where she then felt like she had to step forward or take a stand or a seat based on all of the teaching, all the influence, and everything that was going on, even from a spiritual standpoint. So that's how she said that would come together.
Yes, it just seems like everything just worked out the way that it needed to for her to be able to make this impact. And did she understand, or do you know if she understood at the time how significant her actions were going to become in history just from doing this?
No, the thing is, she was not doing it at that time. She was saying, as a young person, she was not doing that, saying, I need to make this statement, take a position for this, for whatever political, historical reason. That was not it. She was passionately, she really believed in what she was being taught at school, and she believed in the law of the land and the Constitution. She believed in that. And so and also again, being grounded in faith, and she felt like she had that courage. So she took that position, but she was not trying to take it saying, I need to take this stand for history or some other symbolic reason. She was actually grounded again in what she was taught. She believed in it, and she stood on that. And I think she would tell me after everything was over, then she would reflect on all of it, the jail time, everything, being arrested. She would go back and then reflect on it, and then just be, at, I would say amazed, but really thankful and grateful that she was able to get through that. And she just felt like it was a spiritual thing, that she was inspired to take her stand, take her seat.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like you said, her having that time to reflect, it impacted the way that she moved about the rest of her life as well. And did that like inspire you as well, just hearing her courage and how she was able to do that and make that stance just because it was personal for her to do that?
And my stand, and the way it applies to me, was again going back to foundational things. I'm an educator, teach information systems. I'm also a CPA, Master's in Professional Accounting. See, but all of that was again in foundational things, because even when I was in my practicing or working as a CPA, in auditing and working in corporate, I spent a lot of time working with charities and nonprofits and being on the board of charities where you were trying to do things in the community, trying to inspire. And a lot of it was trying to work toward economic employment, things like that, building skills. I spent a lot of time doing that. And then it was after working in corporate, I really always had this desire to go into education and then start teaching again. Going back to my mom, she was inspired by her teacher. Then I wanted to also go into academia. But the only thing is, I wanted to go in at the college level versus at the high school level where her learning took place.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you have like this history with your mom where you want to be able to like teach others and like inspire others in the same way that she was able to do for you and many other people around her as well. And for many years, I know her story wasn't as widely recognized until recently. And so when she finally began receiving that recognition later in life, what did that mean to her and your family?
Well, she was again. If you go back to the beginning, I was saying at the time my mom was taking a position based on her conviction and what she was being taught, and she wasn't thinking about it historically. So during her basically most of her adult life, she would speak to young people. She would still speak, go to conferences and things like that. But she was not trying to push. She was not trying to push for any kind of recognition historically. And then after she retired, all that came into play. And then she started looking at it from that kind of perspective, historical perspective. And she was very thankful. And then reflecting back, again, she was very appreciative, but she also, when she would tell a story, again, looking at how things work together, uh, our family, and she would tell stories about the Rosa Parks family and how she knew her. And then she would go over there and be with their family, where they'd be baking. Her mom, Rosa Parks' mother, would be baking things, and she would be talking to and being and just sharing information with Rosa Parks. But overall, she felt like it was good that things were starting to come together, but be put in perspective, and everything would fit together. There was she would say, and when she would speak, a lot of times she would say, uh, there was a role, there was a times and a place, and she had a very high regard for what Rosa Parks did and stand and how things fit together. And then my mom started looking at it, and she appreciated the concept of her actions being like a spark, because my mom didn't think about it at the time, but then a lot of adults, she would when she reflected back, a lot of, and they would actually come to the home to my mom's home, and they would talk and discuss things. A lot of adults then took courage. Well, not took courage. They felt inspired themselves to say, well, if this young person can do that, then we should be able to take action and we should be able to step forward and do things. And so she saw that as a spark and everything fitting together. So that my mom started being more recognized, she really appreciated how she was being recognized, but how it was being put in context with the whole story and the whole process. So she appreciated that. She was very thankful, and family appreciated it also, of course.
Yes, and she seems like such a humble woman, and the fact that she was just able to continue to share that, but also get the recognition that she deserved for playing such this pivotal role in Black history and just in history in general.
Well, one thing though is, I would like to add, uh, when she would go back and reflect on the story, a lot of, if you heard her speeches, a lot of it would be trying to again inspire younger people and
Hmm.
also anybody, and then explain and also connect the role of education. But it's not just education, formal education, it's also self-learning, it's also community, sharing of knowledge within the community, sharing information. She saw that as being a big part of it. So again, she appreciated it, but her main thing was trying to inspire and encourage people to take a stand on what they were being taught and what they know was right.
Absolutely. And I'm sure people are able to even apply it into things, happening today. And so
Yes,
it's so great that she was able to give these speeches to younger people. And like you mentioned, you teach college students and she taught high school students. So those like pivotal younger ages going into young adulthood. And so being able to teach them that as they're going into their more later adulthood times.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
And your mother, I know she later became a plaintiff in the Browder Gale case, which led to the Supreme Court ruling ending bus segregation. Did she talk about what that meant to be a part of that legal fight and what that was like for her?
Yes, yes. From a legal standpoint, it was more complicated for them to actual make a legal position or a case. And the one thing that my mom and I we would talk about is the one difference in her story and a lot of other things that took place is my mom literally refused to be moved. They had to take her off the bus, which she felt when she kept saying it was a constitutional right under the 14th Amendment. She felt like her rights were being violated from that standpoint. So because her rights were being violated from a constitutional standpoint, and then the other three ladies that joined in the case, they were adults. My mom's uh, testimony when she was during the case, and even got affirmed and upheld by the Supreme Court, was grounded on that position of violating the 14th Amendment. So from that standpoint, she felt very pleased about that, and she prepared for it. Uh, she was gifted with the ability to communicate, understand at that age. That's why people were I think why the story really took root is because my mom was actually testifying in court, and had the case to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And her testimony and the things that she put forth and things that were brought out were valid, and they were foundational kind of issues. So she really appreciated and reflected on that, um, and she embraced it, and she was very thankful.
Yes, and like you mentioned, I was just gonna say, like, she was so young, and so did she ever talk about what that was like for her to go through these things and take the actions that she had the courage to take at such a young age? Because I know, like, being a teenager and just being young during that time was probably something difficult, but she had the courage to do it.
Yes, it was somewhat of a paradox. She understood what she was doing. She was aware of that, but the thing that I would say was probably the biggest challenge is that you're right. A teenager at that time, 15, you're in high school, that stage, things that other teenagers had their mind on, they were not thinking about going, they would not be thinking about being arrested or going into a court and then testifying. So she was in like two spheres. One was she had a passion about what she was doing, and she knew they were talking, and she knew what she was going to have to do. But at the same time, her friends, it was different. It was really that was a probably I would say a one of the stressors was that her friends were not necessarily in that same space, and then the parents, because keep in mind, back in that time, there was still a lot of violence being committed against minorities. So her friends, their parents were literally afraid for their children, and so she lost a lot of friends, and not where they still didn't like her, but their parents were telling them uh, uh, to stay clear because something dangerous might happen. So my mom was dealing with the passion of doing what's right, Sojourner Truth, uh, uh, Harriet Tubman, things like that, history. She was in that space. But then when she would relax and go back and try to be around friends, they were in this space of fear. And so that was so you mentioned that question you just asked, it was a very tough time for her.
Yeah, and I only imagine, the things that she had to go through, but I love that she was able to still have that courage and be able to, in her older life, be able to inspire people who were young or around that age to be able to take a stand and take, similar courage for things that they want to be able to take a stand for. So I absolutely love that. And I'm sure, like I said earlier, that probably inspired you to be able to do similar, things just to have courage and inspire other people growing up having her as your mom and being that representation for you.
Yes, yes.
And during Black History Month, what do you hope people like understand about your mother's legacy and what she contributed to Black history? And what do you hope younger people today can learn from her and her story?
Well, it again it ties back where things tie together and they fit. We're all part of the community. We're part of the community, then we're part of the city, the local area, then we're part of the state, then we're part of the country. My mom was big on where you are, trying to make a contribution where you are. And just like in organization, you always had a continued process improvement in communities, in areas where the school, communities, at church, different areas. There, because things change, there are opportunities to contribute and get involved. Uh, so from that standpoint, she would want to say for young people, and in this day and age with all information on the internet, where you can find out history, where you can use it for good and gain knowledge, use that in order to try to make a contribution, try to make a positive contribution in the space where you are in the community, and then that in turns impacts the local area, then it impacts the city, and so forth and so forth. But then from a Black history standpoint, it would be, I'm going to say courage. It would be, my mom would have a saying, she would talk about it sometimes, where When you want to do something, make a change and do what's right, sometimes it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But one thing you have to do is be founded. If you're grounded on a solid foundation, you still, whether you're an adult or a young person, middle age, you still should be able to take a stand and have that courage and form some type of conviction beyond self. So that's the thing, courage beyond self.
Yes, I love that courage beyond self and being able to like take that stand. And like you said, it's so important to, like whether you're young, middle age, older. And so I think anybody can take something from Claudette's story and being able to just utilize that to have the courage. And like you said, use the internet for good to, learn more information that they need and, more about history. Claudette, I know she went on to move from Alabama to New York and she became a nurse's aide towards like the later parts of her life. And so, what did those chapters of her life look like when she made that move?
That's that actually fits my, and it goes back when my mom was working in New York as a nurse's aide. The one thing we talked about, and we would smile and we were pleased about, is that uh, she could work and communicate and get along with people across different ethnic groups, different backgrounds, and so forth. And so she had friends. She loved to talk about people she knew from the Caribbeans and things like that, and even from Europe when they would come over, where she would be able to dialogue and just get along with people from different areas and different backgrounds because she respect people. She was a respecter of people and other cultures and so forth. So she enjoyed that space. And even when we moved her down to Texas, it was like a smooth transition for her being able to integrate and make friends within the local area, given the demographics of Texas.
Yes, and I love it. And as you said about Texas, I lived there for about 2 years when I was younger, and it's definitely like a melting pot, and you learn to connect with so many different people. So I'm sure that was a really great time for her, and I'm glad that she was able to kind of take those experiences and move around to different places in her life and just still continue to make an impact and connect with people.
Yes, yes.
And what do you think Miss Claudette would want people to remember most about her, and what are your plans to keep her legacy alive?
Okay. Well, I'll end up with the Claudette Colvin Foundation, um, and I would say she would want people just remember, well, foundational. She goes back to education, she goes back to community, and then she would go back to church support. Her thing would be uh, supporting others locally within the community. Again, starting within the community, within the area, supporting others from that standpoint. And also, but going from there, from my standpoint, I would uh, plan to do like what we're doing today. Uh, um, since I teach, again, trying to present information, communication, but also tying the dots together because I think for a lot of people, again, regardless of ethnic background, uh, sometimes people in a very, very local level that might be bent on just working good with the hands, working day to day, so forth. Sometimes people cannot see the impact that they're having or how they can make a contribution and influence that they have. And so I think, and you hear a lot of times people say grassroots, but my thing would be to help people see the big picture and how they are connected. And also, on the other end, since I worked in corporate America for a number of years, well over 20 years, it would be how, from that standpoint, large organizations also have a role in being able to connect with those people more at the local level that might not work at large organizations. They may be small entrepreneurs, uh, but uh, but we're all part of that symbiotic role in this area, from communities, again, from the local community, local area, city, state, the nation. We're all connected.
Yes, I love that. And I love the way that you put that because we're all just like one piece of the puzzle, but we're all connected in some way. And so I feel like you and your mom both represent that so well.
Thank you.
And is there anything else you would like to share?
Well, I would like to say that I'm very thankful for the support that the family received in my mom's passing.
Yes.
We had the ceremony, the cards, the people reaching out, my friends, uh, uh, networks, professionally. It was a very it was very supportive and very inspirational during that transitional period. So I'm very thankful for all of those
Yes, absolutely. And I feel
in
like
that area.
it's always so helpful, during the passing of someone so close to you to have such a big level of support. So I'm glad that everybody was able to rally around you and your family during that time.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Dr. Colvin, for just sharing you and Miss Claudette Colvin's story with me today. And it was such an honor to be able to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning into another episode of This Month Matters. Claudette Colvin's courage at 15 helped change the course of American history. This Black History Month, her legacy reminds us that bravery doesn't have an age limit and that change makers come in all ages. This Black History Month, we celebrate Claudette Colvin and countless others whose courage continues to inspire us to build a more just and equal world. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time for another episode of This Month Matters.